Hello everyone, it's Jen from Old Tinkerer Studio. Welcome to the next Let's Make Blender 2.7 tutorial. In this tutorial, we'll be modeling headphones. This tutorial series assumes that you know the basics of Blender modeling. If you're new to Blender, I would recommend viewing my Blender Basics course before beginning this series. Let's start by changing to the Cycles render. Delete the cube and add a cylinder. We'll leave the vertices at 32 and change the cap fill to nothing. Tab into edit mode and rotate the headband around the x-axis by 90 degrees. Then we need to delete the bottom half of the faces. Go ahead and select the entire headband and scale it along the y-axis to the proper size. Go to top view and delete the left side of the headband. Then add a mirror modifier. Make sure that you have clipping turned on and click on this little triangle that's the cage. That way we can see both sides of the model. Then add a solidify modifier. And this we just need to change the thickness. I'm going to change mine to 0.08. Tab into object mode and apply your solidify modifier. And you'll get a little notification that the applied modifier wasn't first, but that's not going to make a difference in our case. So go back into edit mode and select this bottom face and extrude it. And then go ahead and scale this extrusion, the face, along the y-axis. And then just select your edges of the headband and give them a little bit of a bevel. Go ahead and add a plane. Go ahead and turn off clipping. And these are going to be the connectors between the headband and the actual ear cups. Let's go ahead and move your planes along the x-axis. Rotate them around the y-axis by 90 degrees. And then go ahead and scale them. Then go ahead and extrude them along the x-axis to give them a little bit of thickness. And then add 5 loop cuts. Now go ahead and move them away from the headband because we're going to use proportional editing and we don't want that to affect the actual headband. Select your center loop and turn on proportional editing. And then all we need to do is give these connectors just a little bit of a curve. Then when you have your desired curve, select the entire connector. Don't forget to turn off proportional editing. And then just move the connectors in place and make any adjustments that you need to make to them. Now we're going to make the actual ear cups. Let's add a cylinder. Leave the vertices at 32 and make sure your cap fill is triangle fan. And move them apart a little bit along the x-axis. Rotate them around the y-axis 90 degrees. And then scale them down to their initial size. Select your outer faces and extrude them along the x-axis, and then scale them in. Now select the inner faces to the ear cups, extrude them along the x-axis, extrude them a second time, and then extrude them for a third time. Now inset these interfaces. And then extrude them back along the x-axis. Now select these faces on the outside. And then we're going to extrude them in along the x-axis. Now select your top two center faces, extrude them up along the z-axis, and then scale them along the x and y axes as needed, just to make them a little bit thinner and a little bit flared. Select the entire ear cup and then rotate them and put them in place. And once you have everything exactly like you want it to be, tab back into object mode and apply your mirror modifier. Open up your materials tab If you have a default material in here, go ahead and delete it. And tab back into object mode. Add a new material. We'll just call this black. Change your surface to the principled shader. And change your base color to either black or dark gray. I'm going to choose a dark gray with a hex code of 262626. Change your roughness to 1. That will give us a look of a flat black plastic surface. Then assign this material to your entire model. Under settings, if you open up your viewport color, you can put in the same hex code that you just used, so that way you can actually see it in the viewport. Add a second material. We'll just call this blue. And change your surface to the principled shader. For your base color, we'll change this to a blue material. I'm using the hex code of 4F97E7. Again, change your roughness to 1. And then we're going to assign this to the middle faces of the ear cup, which is this real skinny part that we had extruded earlier. Let's add one more material. We'll just call this red. Again, change your surface to the principled shader. Give your base color a red color. I'm going to use the hex code of E74049. Go ahead and change your roughness all the way up to 1. And then assign this material to the outer faces of the ear cups. Now, in order to better show the plastic of the model, we're going to be using an HDRI. So go ahead and download an HDRI. I recommend using HDRI Haven. It's free and open source, and if you have a few bucks, go ahead and give them a few bucks because we need to help support these open source programs. If you just go under HDRIs, there's tons that you can go ahead and download. Now I'm going to use an HDRI I already have that's of a machine shop. So to use these, under your render tab, scroll down to where it says film and check transparent. This will allow the HDRI to interact with the model, but it won't render. Then go to your World tab, click on Ambient Occlusion, and then Use Nodes. Then under Color, we're going to go ahead and open up an environment texture. Just click Open and go to your HDRI. Then let's go ahead into rendered mode. And as we move our model around, you can see how the light is interacting with the model. Okay, so go back into solid mode, and we're going to bake our materials. So split your viewport into 3 sections. Change one of these sections to the UV image editor and the other one to the node editor. Select your entire mesh, and since we're using flat colors, we can just go ahead and hit U and use Smart UV Project. Give it a little bit of island margin. Then over in the UV image editor, click on New and give this a title. I'm just going to leave it at 1024 by 1024. Then in the node editor, add an image texture and click on these 2 little arrows next to where it says open. Find the texture that you just named, open that up, copy this image texture, and then paste it on each of your material. And go back to your rendered tab. If you have GPU, you can go ahead and change your device to GPU compute. Scroll down to the bottom where it says bake. We'll just leave this as combined and click on bake. Once everything is baked, don't forget to click on image and then save as image. There's your very basic low poly headphones. I hope you found this useful. If you follow along with this tutorial or any of my tutorials, please tweet me your creations. The link is in the description. If you have any questions or suggestions for tutorials, please leave a comment below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a good day.